This is Crimson Tide This Week with David Crane.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Crimson Tide This Week, the final show of the 2005-2006 season. Bama baseball enters the final month of the regular season on a roll. Jim Wells' team swept top 20 Vanderbilt at Sewell Thomas Stadium last weekend. The first order of business was sweeping a doubleheader on Saturday after Friday night's game was rained out.
Game one saw Wade LeBlanc strand two runners in the first inning, and then his offense went to work on Vandy ace David Price. Emil Salem started all three games with a single, and after a sac bunt by Matt Downs and a steal of third, Alex Avila put Bama on the board with an RBI single down the left field line.
You know, we went in there with a game plan and we executed it perfectly. And we knew if we were going to, execute them, there was no way we were going to lose those two games. And, we had a feeling we would beat up on those guys, as long as we did what we were supposed to do.
In the fourth inning, the Tide had two on with two out, and Brandon Belcher at the plate. He smacked his second homer in a week, and the three-run shot gave Alabama a 4-0 lead. One inning later, Matt Downs started a rally with a double down the left field line. Avila followed with a single, and then Cody Valverde delivered a run-scoring double to up the Bama lead to 5-0. Evan Bush drove in another run with a sacrifice fly, and then freshman Ryan Roden finished the three-run inning with an RBI single that scored Valverde. The Tide had built a 7-0 lead through 5 innings thanks to 8 hits off David Price.
Yeah, they were geared up, for Price, and just turned him around like I'm sure he's never been turned around. And then the other guy had even better stats, Crowell. So, two good pitchers, two of the better pitchers in the league, and hitting is contagious, and it lasted, for the whole weekend.
Wade LeBlanc was back to his old self as he scattered 4 hits over 8 innings and improved to 7-0. In the 7th, Matt Downs opened the inning with a solo blast to make it 8-0. And Alabama would cruise to a 9-3 win in Game 1 of the doubleheader. Game 2 started with Vandy scoring 2 runs in the first off Bernard Robert, but it didn't take long for the Tide offense to respond. Wes Henderson made the most of his first career start and got Bama on the board with an RBI double in the second inning. Ryan Roden motored home to make it a 2-1 deficit, and in the third inning, Downs started things with a single. Then Alex Avila belted the first of his 3 straight doubles. Alex was 6 out of 10 in the doubleheader with 4 runs scored and 5 batted in, and the newcomer was named the SEC's Freshman of the Week. Cody Valverde put the Tide on top one batter later. A 2-run blast made it 4-2, and Alabama would not trail again. 3 more runs crossed the plate in the fourth inning as Evan Bush singled in Avila for a 6-2 lead, and freshman Ryan Roden continued his solid weekend with a run-scoring triple. Bush scored to make it 7-2, and that proved to be plenty of cushion for Robert, who improved to 6-2 on the year after striking out 9 in 7 1/3 innings. He enjoyed the run support, but he also got a little help from his defense. 3 more in the 5th inning made it 10-2 Bama, and the Tide finished off the doubleheader sweep of the doors, 14-7. The 3rd doubleheader sweep for the Crimson Tide this season.
Well, the guys have been good. It's tough to do, especially 2 9-inning games. The odds are you're going to have a split, but we handled it well. And, with us scoring runs now in bunches, that helped.
Sunday was a different story. The Crimson Tide had to scratch and claw against the Commodores, who once again scored first. Tommy Hunter kept the damage to a minimum, and in the 3rd, Matt Downs came through with a clutch 2-out single to score Brandon Belcher. Both teams scored a run in the 4th, and Bama would trail 3-2 until the 6th. Singles by Valverde and Roden had 2 on with only 1 out. Pinch hitter Wes Henderson delivered once again. The redshirt freshman doubled off the wall in left field. 2 runs scored, and Alabama had its first lead of the day at 4-3. The Commodores answered with 2 runs off Tommy Hunter in the 7th to retake the lead 5-4. In the 8th, Valverde reached base for the 3rd time thanks to a costly error by shortstop Dominic De La Osa. After a walk and a sac bunt, pinch hitter Matt Bentley tied the score with a groundout. 1 batter later, the Tide was back on top. Brandon Belcher stroked a single to center, and Evan Bush raced home with the go-ahead run. Trailing 6-5 in the ninth, the Commodores tried to start one last rally. A leadoff single and a hit batter had 2 on with no outs. David Robertson was called upon, and the sophomore came through. He struck out National Player of the Week Pedro Alvarez. He then coaxed a ground ball to second. Bama could not turn the double play, but umpire Fred Cannon ruled runners interference at second. The runner at first was called out, and Alabama had won in stunning fashion.
The first 2 games, you pounded them to death, and then they had to come from behind, and other guys coming off the bench, Henderson having a big game, Bentley, and then at the end, an unusual play where, obstruction and getting a double play, which kept us from having to deal with another hitter with runners on first and third. So we got a break there, but it kind of evens out over the course of 30 years.
The Vandy coaches were livid, and head coach Tim Corbin would be ejected after the game, meaning he had to sit out the Commodores' midweek game. The sweep was the first series win for Alabama over the Black and Gold since 2000, and it also helped the Tide to first place in the SEC.
Bama now leads the Western Division by 3 games and is the overall leader by 2 games over South Carolina and Kentucky. Next, we'll see how the final midweek game went and also look ahead to Auburn.
Crimson Tide this week is brought to you by Coca-Cola. Let's make it real. And by O'Reilly Auto Parts.